Hi everyone and welcome back to Let's Talk Talent. I'm your host Wina Puangkumutuk, aka your cool millennial manager, and for today's episode I am joined in conversation by the president of the Philippine Society for Talent Development and the CEO of Exeqserve, Mr. Edwin Ebreo. Welcome to the show, Sir Ed. We're so honored to have you.
Hello, Wina. Good afternoon.
Before anything else, I'd like to ask you about your career journey and your journey in discovering your strengths, your talents.
Okay, I'll tell a little bit kasi ang haba, no? I actually started as a store clerk, a service crew at 7-Eleven. And, and I'm very young at 20 years old. And I stayed there in the operations of 7-Eleven for 3 years. And then somebody from management invited me to join the newly formed learning and development department or the training department. So from there, my training and development career started. I became an HR manager eventually, and after a while, I realized I wanted to start my own business. So in 2007, I started Exeqserve.
Thanks for sharing that with us, Sir Ed. Grabe, super inspiring. And I think one of the things I love about learning and development or talent development is it really cuts across different functions like in an organization. You're not limited to helping train or develop, let's say, just customer service people or just operations people, but it's really far reaching. Is there a specific moment where you knew na eto na talaga yung career for you?
My decision to become a talent development practitioner started when I was not yet there. I attended my first supervisory skills training. I was promoted from a store clerk to shift leader or shift supervisor. So I attended the training, and I was so impressed with the training facilitator. I said, I want to be like that someday. Parang yung ano lang, paglaki ko, gagayahin ko yan. And well, it was quite serendipitous because after that, I was invited. It was a newly formed department for 7-Eleven. We didn't have it before. So that was the my starting point. So the decision came before I joined, and then when I joined, ang siyempre pagka ano ka training assistant ka, the job is really new employee training and then assisting the consultants during training, preparing the handouts and everything, ordering the meals, those kind of things. I said, how do I jump from where I am now to becoming a trainer? Not just new employee training. So we were getting consultants, and then after a while, I told my boss, I said, boss, I think I can do a better job of conducting supervisory training because I came from the operations and I have better context, no? And my boss was empowering enough to take the risk with me, and he said, no, yabang mo talaga, and you know, prepare your, design your training, show me. And then I did, my very first supervisory training that I conducted, thinking about it now, how I suck. I just really literally read PowerPoint presentation, naka-acetate pa yon, and explained, and then the evaluation was he just read the slides and explained. That was the inspiration and the challenge for me to, okay, so what do I need to learn in order to become a effective learning and development practitioner? So that curiosity got me going, no?
Grabe, Sir Ed, you're so courageous. I mean, to make that jump, right? I'm sure it took a lot of guts also on your part to tell your manager that or to be the one who's proactively saying, I want to take charge of my career and take this leave.
Yeah, I think that's one talent I have. I don't know if that's a talent. It can also be a weakness. Is I'm intuitively a risk taker. Uh, so I'm not afraid of failure. I'm half expecting failure basically every time. So and yung anak ko nga sabi, ang nakalagay daw sa tomb ko when I die is that, why did I do that?
Yeah, definitely. I think that's a strength, Sir Ed. For sure. Strength yun. And ano, I think having an appetite for risk is like a really good strength because not everyone has that, you know. And yeah, I always believe in fortune favors the brave. I think if there's something that's going to be on my tombstone, that's what I want to put. Kasi I think ano I mean, even if there's something to lose or even if you do fail, there's so many lessons to be learned in the trying aspect of it.
And you have to be you have to be comfortable with failure kasi yung my risk taking I think got me into more trouble than success. You don't need a lot of success, you just need a few success. And the troubles actually got you there, will get you to the success part.
Speaking of training, Sir Ed, you mentioned training and talent development. I think a lot of our listeners would be a bit curious about that because our traditional notion of training is like skills based. You mentioned supervisory skills, but I know that in PSTD or the Philippine Society for Talent Development, you also talk about talent development and the talent development framework. So could I ask you to walk us through that?
Well, there are a number of components in talent development. The way the Philippine Society for Talent Development drew it is we drew it from the perspective of the talent, not the talent developer. And the reason why we did that is because we believe that that the owner of the journey is the talent, and the job of the talent development practitioner, and there will be many. We're not talking about a talent development professional. We're talking about people who are involved in developing talents. And if you look at the people who facilitate talent development, especially in the workplace, it's not the training department. It's the immediate supervisor, the manager of the employee. Kasi dun sa concept ng 70-20-10. I don't know if you're familiar with that. You're familiar. Uh, yung 70 at saka 20, ano yun teritoryo ng boss. The 10% is the territory of the learning and development department. Hopefully, they are able to effectively create a system for the 70 and 20. But at the end of the day, it's the immediate boss. No? So, if you look at the talent development framework of PSTD, it starts with discovery. We call it pagmulat. If the recruitment department or the people in charge of recruitment is doing their job of profiling candidate, they should be able to identify the strengths and weaknesses of the candidates before they offer employment. So by profiling the candidates well, they should be able to identify the existing capabilities and the ones that can still be developed. So that is move to the next stage or phase of talent development, which is paglinang. And paglinang involves career pathing, training, or learning and development, all the other different avenues by which you can develop the capability of the talent. And there's so pagmulat, discovery, paglinang, development, and then we have paglinang at paghusay pala yun. And then the third is paglaya, which is the learning and development and all the other interventions should help the talent realize their potential, become more mobile in the organization, move up, move horizontally if they want, laterally, because they have developed the capability. And then the final stage is pagtagumpay, which is realizing the potential. Now, one of the things that we're doing now there's one committee in PSTD, the TD framework committees. We are examining that because we recognize when we started a few years ago the development of the framework that this is going to be a long-term conversation, soul searching, and we're realizing na the journey is not linear. It's cyclical. So you experience discovery, learning and development, mobility, and success in a cyclical way, right? In fact, it's not cyclical in terms of yung four stages na daanan mo. It's multi-directional, like a causal loop. So, and the thing that we're doing now at PSTD is how do we uh, help the people in charge of who are responsible of talent development? How do we help them? How do we give them the necessary tools so that they can facilitate the development of the individual talents? Because in a perfect world, we are responsible for our own development. We should be, right? And people who make personal breakthroughs recognize that they are in charge of their development. But for some of us, or for the most of us, actually, we need help. And that's the job of PSTD. How do we equip the people in charge of helping so that they can help better?
Makes sense na it's cyclical, hindi siya linear because it also happens parang you hit a certain milestone and then you start again, right?
Yeah.
Like, yeah, as soon as you go to a certain level, suddenly you're a beginner again within that level. You mentioned so about like people who are there to develop the talents of their people. So usually the managers who sometimes, like, I guess, I've heard, like, specific arguments for that, like, we'll train people and then they'll leave, or if I empower this person to discover their potential, then they might discover their potential and go somewhere else.
Yeah, such is
How
the fact of life. You have to accept that is true, and that should not stop you from developing people. We need to think in terms of abundance. Eh. If all organizations, if all leaders are developing their people and accept the fact that people come and go, uh, there should be an abundance of capable talents to exchange, right? Instead of saying, okay, I'm not gonna train people. I'm just, they're just arms and legs to me. You will suffer, that culture of mediocrity, and then you'll pass that on to another organization who also has the same mindset. You can already guess where we're going, no, if that's the mindset. So we need to think in terms of abundance that we should help people grow so that they can make an impact anywhere they go, whether they stay with us in our organization. Hopefully, there's enough reason, there's enough motivation to stay. I find that when people are happy where they work, where their expectations are met, where they see their horizon, no, especially smart people, no, they they assess what how far am I going with this organization? How far is it going to take me in my life's professional journey? Where I would like to bring myself in the future.
Right, that's true. Wow, thanks for that, Sir Ed. And I'll use that as a jumping off point also to go back to something you said earlier about recruitment. So you mentioned it's important also to make sure that you have the right people. I've heard also some people argue, like during the recruitment, let's say they're screening candidates, that it's better to choose the one that's not so good because they'll probably stay in the company longer. Uh, rather than someone
What?
who's really good. I've heard it. And at first, I was a little bit shocked, but now I think I've heard it enough that I wanted to get your thoughts on that also. Like, what do you think about that?
hiring is everything. I always say that whenever I get an opportunity to talk to people who make hiring decisions. Hiring is everything. A wrong hire will not be corrected by training. You know, it's like watering an empty plot, no, a seedless plot. If you hire somebody for a position where that person has no chance of success, if you are able to hire someone the with the talent and the skills required, kung magaling yon, that should be ano, no, it's like winning the lottery with that person because that person will help the organization exponentially. If you have a mediocre person staying in the company for 5 years versus somebody who's really talented, who's really good at what they do for 1 year, that talented person will make an impact for that 1 year, and that mediocre person will be your problem for 5 years. And then there's this mantra in recruitment that not a lot of companies follow, but we hear it all the time. Hire for attitude, train for skill. If you think about it, people who develop their skills are people who have the right attitude. So, of course, there will be people who are new to the job, do not have the complete experience yet, but you will see if you are able to see if you have a means of seeing the person's potential. Look at the person's attitude towards learning, the person's agility. I found that confidence and humility go together. People who are confident are able to recognize what they're doing well, what they're not doing well, and are open to feedback. Kaya
Ah,
naman
right,
ito,
right, right.
oh, I don't like anymore. It's too hard, di ba? So you need to find people who will not find learning something too hard. And people are willing to jump the hoops in order to learn. If you can find those people, they're good candidates, no? And then train them because they respond to training.
That's such good advice, Ed. And tama. I think I agree with you that humility and confidence really do go together because if you are able to be confident in yourself, then you also know the things like your limitations and you're more accepting of that. Speaking of limitations and challenges, my final question for our episode today is I want to ask you what is like one of the most common challenges that organizations face when it comes to jumping from the very traditional mindset of training as just something as like a band-aid solution, like you
Mm-mm.
said, training for skill when maybe it's not really the problem, to that talent development mindset where you're hiring the right people, assessing their strengths, and making sure that any intervention is really apt for the situation.
Ano siya eh, the challenge is invisible. We organization often do not see it. It's one of those organizational learning disability, you know, na yung being able to um, punch the switch from training as a transactional thing, uh, moving from there. Actually, let me rephrase that. Yung shifting the mindset that training is something the training department does. From there, as a transaction to talent development, which is the job of everyone in the organization, including the talent
Right.
themselves. So importante 'yon, ano, that the talent in the organization, the talents in the organization are able to develop their personal mastery. That's an important starting point. Eh. You can train, for example, you can train people you hired for sales on the how-tos of sales. No, step one, step two, step three. But if you don't develop their self-confidence, yung personal mastery, yung develop their ability to have a positive conversation with themselves, recognizing what they value, recognizing how they deal with their emotions. Halimbawa, if I'm a salesperson and I don't have the right attitude towards sales, I would know the step and still fail to succeed because the negative self-talk will be louder. Happens before the actual, no, the rejection in your mind happens before the actual rejection. So when you develop people in your organization, you have to develop the whole person. We help people embrace those values so that they understand why they're doing what they're doing, not just how to do what they're doing. The biggest contributor to people's development is their immediate boss. Kasi tingnan mo ha, managers train their people advertently, inadvertently. Right? If I say, listen to what I'm saying, I don't want any question later. Do you have any
Mm.
question? So, of course, no question. Sabi mo, you don't want any question. So, everything that goes out of your mouth is training. Now, if what you do in the shop floor, so to speak, is inconsistent with what's being said in the classroom, guess which one the employees will follow? What the manager says, because the manager is the one who does the performance appraisal. So there has to be alignment and consistency between what happens in the classroom and what happens in the workplace. So if you have a limited investment uh, for talent development in an organization, my recommendation is to invest in building the capabilities of managers to develop their people. The learning and development department should recognize what kind of influence they have in the organization and the limitation of their authority, and build a collaborative relationship with all the managers in the organization, helping them realize that talent development is 10% training department, 90% line managers.
Well, thank you so much, Sir Ed, for today's episode and conversation. I'll just do a quick recap of the highlights, which were like the best teachable moments for me. First is, of course, to be brave, right? To take accountability for your own talent development and also to voice it out to your manager or whoever is there to help you. The next is that hiring is everything. No amount of training will be able to fix a mishire. And of course, the holistic development of the self, which plays into any role. If you're able to empower and uplift your people, then it's not just for your organization, it's for that person and the Filipino workforce. Sir Ed, before we go today, I'd like to ask if you have any initiatives or upcoming events maybe that you'd like to tell us about. And maybe you can also tell us where people can find you: LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook.
Ayan, lahat yun at saka sa TikTok din. Find me at
Wow!
TikTok.
I'll follow your
TikTok,
TikTok.
TikTokerist ang lolo nyo. So, well, I'm running an online series on competency development that starts on April 11. And it's a series because I'm going to cover the fundamentals of competency development, and then competency-based recruitment, because as we said, hiring is everything. Competency-based succession planning. All the details of that can be found at our website at execuserve.com. Attend if you are a talent development practitioner. That training will be very useful. And one more, please join the Philippine Society for Talent Development if you are a talent development practitioner, if you are in learning and development, if you are in HR. There's a lot of return of investment in becoming a member of our society, which Wina is also a member of.
Yes, and I can vouch it's super worth it. All of the training, the friends and connections that you're able to make, and of course, all of the best practices also. Thank you so much for joining us today, Sir Ed. If you like today's episode, we hope that you'll join us again next week. We're speaking with Carmina Mayordomo, Learning and Talent Lead at ING. For more talent updates, you can follow me on Instagram and TikTok at Wina_Wonders, and you can listen to Let's Talk Talent anywhere you get your podcasts.